Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and, let's be real, notoriously confusing topics in all of applied behavior analysis. We're looking at ABA fundamentals, specifically focusing on the ultimate showdown, MO versus SD. Now, whether you're gearing up for a massive exam or you're just genuinely curious about the invisible forces driving human behavior, you are exactly where you need to be. Distinguishing between motivating operations and discriminative stimuli is basically the classic trap on the exam. But don't worry, by the time we finish today, you're going to have this completely locked down.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the engine of wanting, followed up by the signs of availability. Then we're putting them head-to-head in our MO versus SD showdown. After that, we'll hit who is in control and generalization versus discrimination before bringing it all home with a quick interactive practice quiz.
So before we get completely bogged down in the technical acronyms, let's just zoom out for a second and ask a massive question, one that really sits right at the heart of human psychology. Why do we do what we do? What are those unseen forces actually driving our everyday behaviors? Like, why do you suddenly crave a snack at 3 p.m.? Or why do you automatically hit the brakes the second you see a red light? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at two very distinct things, our internal drive and the external signs in our environment.
Okay, let's jump into part one, the engine of wanting.
Here is our first major piece of the puzzle, the motivating operation, or MO. Simply put, an MO is something that changes how valuable a consequence is to you in a specific moment. The absolute easiest way to think about it is to just ask yourself, how badly do I want it right now? For example, let's say you were rushing and completely skipped breakfast this morning. As the hours tick by, food becomes incredibly valuable to you, right? You're way more likely to ask for food, look for food, maybe buy a snack. That physical, internal state of hunger, that is your motivating operation. It is literally the engine of your wanting. Now, what's interesting is that motivating operations actually split off into two different directions. Think of it kind of like a volume knob. First, we have the establishing operation, or EO, which turns the volume up. It makes you want something more. It establishes the value. On the flip side, we have the abolishing operation, or AO, which turns the volume down. It makes you want something less. It abolishes the value. So they're just two sides of the exact same coin, constantly dialing your desire up or down. Let's ground this with some everyday examples so it's super easy to understand. For an EO, just picture having no food for hours. Obviously, that makes food highly valuable, and you are highly motivated to go find some. But let's look at the AO. Imagine you literally just ate a massive Thanksgiving-style feast. Suddenly, the value of food plummets, right? You don't want it anymore. Your desire has been entirely abolished. The crucial takeaway here is that both the EO and the AO are strictly manipulating your internal level of desire. Moving right along to section 2, the signs of availability. Enter the SD, or discriminative stimulus. An SD is an environmental stimulus that signals reinforcement is actually available for a behavior. Think of it this way. If the MO is your brain saying, I want it, the SD is the universe winking back at you saying, hey, if you do this specific behavior right now, it's going to work. Let's go back to our snack example. You want a snack, so you walk down the hall and spot a vending machine. The lights are on and it's fully stocked with your favorite chips. That brightly lit machine, that is your SD. It's a literal physical sign signaling that if you put your money in, you'll get what you want. But, we aren't always quite that lucky. Let's meet the S delta. An S delta is a stimulus signaling the exact opposite. It's telling you reinforcement is not available. Picture that exact same vending machine, but the lights are completely dark and there's a giant taped up out of order sign on the glass. The machine is unplugged. If you put your money in now, you get absolutely nothing. That unplugged machine is an S delta. It's letting you know your behavior is basically going to be a dead end right now.
All right, part 3, it is time for the MO versus SD showdown.
This table right here beautifully illustrates the core difference between the two. The motivating operation answers the question, do I want it right now? For instance, I'm thirsty. It's totally internal. Meanwhile, the discriminative stimulus answers the question, will the behavior work right now? Like, hey, a water fountain is available. That's external. Here's the kicker. You can be incredibly thirsty, meaning you have a massive MO, but if there's no water fountain around, there's no SD. You absolutely need both of these working together to successfully produce a behavior and snag that reward.
Let's actually walk through this chronologically step by step. Step 1, your MO. You've been out for a long run, so your thirst makes water incredibly valuable to you. Step 2, the SD. You turn the corner and, boom, you see a working, functioning water fountain. It's signaling availability. Step 3, the behavior. Because you want it and you see it's available, you go ahead and press the button. Step 4, the reinforcer, you get the water. Without step 1, you wouldn't even bother pressing the button, and without step 2, you'd have nowhere to press it in the first place. They are the perfect team.
Which brings us to section 4, who is in control? So this introduces the concept of stimulus control. Stimulus control means a behavior happens more often in the presence of a specific stimulus, simply because that behavior was reinforced in the past when that stimulus was present. Think about driving your car. When you see a red traffic light, you stop. You probably don't even think about it anymore. The red light literally controls your stopping behavior because, in the past, stopping at red lights kept you safe and kept you from getting pulled over. You've learned exactly when that behavior works, so your behavior is now under the control of that specific environmental stimulus.
All right, let's jump to section 5, generalization versus discrimination.
Let's break these two down. With stimulus generalization, a person responds the exact same way to similar stimuli. Imagine a toddler who just learned the word dog. Pretty soon they point to a real dog, a picture of a dog in a book, and a stuffed toy dog on their bed, and they proudly call all of them dog. They're generalizing the concept. By contrast, with stimulus discrimination, the person learns to respond differently to different stimuli. So the toddler sees a dog and says, dog, but then they see a cat and they realize, wait, that's different, so they don't say dog. They have successfully learned to discriminate between those two different environmental signals.
And now, section 6, our interactive practice quiz.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's make this interactive and see if you can dodge those classic exam traps. Here is question number 1. A child hasn't had the iPad all day. The lack of iPad is what? Is it A, an SD? B, an EO, C, an S delta, or D, punishment? Think about it for a second. Is this an internal desire or is it an external sign?
And the answer is B. It's an EO, or establishing operation. Why? Because the sheer fact that the kid hasn't had the iPad all day long has made it incredibly valuable to them. It established their desire and cranked their wanting all the way up to 10.
All right, let's keep this momentum rolling. Question 2. Same basic scenario, but now the child actually sees the iPad sitting right there on the table and asks for it. That visible iPad is what? Is it A, an SD, B, an AO, C, negative punishment, or D, a response class?
If you said A, you absolutely nailed it. The visible iPad is the SD, the discriminative stimulus. Why? Because the physical presence of that iPad sitting on the table is the exact external signal telling the child, hey, if you ask for this right now, reinforcement is available. It's the green light.
Okay, one final question to bring it all home and test your broader application of this stuff. A student raises their hand when the teacher asks a question because in the past, the teacher called on them. This is an example of A, stimulus control, B, punishment, or C, extinction. Let's look at the answer. It is A, stimulus control. The teacher asking a question has literally become the specific environmental stimulus that controls the student's behavior of raising their hand. They know exactly when that behavior is going to work based on past reinforcement. Awesome job if you got those right. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. What truly controls our habits? Is it our inner desires, our motivating operations that fuel our wanting? Or is it the environmental signs around us, our discriminative stimuli, that dictate when things are available? The beautiful, fascinating truth of behavior analysis is that it is a constant, intricate dance between both of them. Understanding that dance is the key to truly mastering behavior. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and hey, keep an eye out for those unseen signals in your own everyday life.